Hello, Heart Place Hospital. Letters to a Future Nurse. Our next chapter. Chapter 4, Tried and Challenged by Keith Theory. I have what I considered a unique perspective because I'm black and a man. Two rare occurrences in modern day nursing, even rarer when you combine these two demographics. My original plan was to become a music teacher. Then I was exposed to healthcare as a provider at 18 when I went to Army Medic School, part of which was an integrated EMT basic course, which I thoroughly enjoyed. After my time of service and years working in restaurants, I needed to figure out what to do with my life. I started taking the prerequisites for medical school, then started a family, and the idea of going to medical school with a wife and 4 children seemed like something I didn't want to do. I love my family and I wanted to spend time with them. Trial by fire has been a common theme in my life, and my nursing career reflects that. Midway through school, I got involved in student government and was elected president of the Texas Nursing Student Association. I said that to give you some insight as to why I had to repeat a semester of nursing school, because I allowed that position to take priority over my studying. I was back in my senior semester in the fall of 2005, just in time to be involved in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina that hit the Gulf Coast in August. Many families were displaced and sent to Dallas, where I lived, worked and attended school. The convention centre was converted into a shelter and the field hospital. Our psychiatric clinical instructor decided that we would be better served dealing with the mental health crises many of these people were experiencing, so they would get the desperately needed care that would not have been otherwise available. As students, we assessed the patient's mental health status and offered therapeutic communication to them. A young woman I spoke with was very anxious, so much so that she couldn't keep her hands still enough to talk to me. I saw a stack of brochures nearby and gave them to her to rip apart, which gave her the ability to focus. That resulted in us being able to locate her loved ones and start the process of reuniting them. I was surrounded by people who were newly homeless through no fault of their own, lying on cots and appearing desperate. It gave me a feeling of hopelessness from an empathic standpoint. There are paramedic students and many nurses from various facilities in the area that were there to assist. Some were volunteers working on their off days or after hours. The teamwork was outstanding and allowed us to take advantage of the catastrophe to help and learn as a student. It was a surreal feeling to be part of that, not even being an official nurse yet. Feeling ill-equipped because I had not yet graduated and these people were dependent on us, I rested on what I had learned thus far. The nursing process: assess, diagnose, plan, intervene, and then evaluate the care given. My experience as an Army field medic helped me manage the circumstances stress. The following month, Hurricane Rita wreaked havoc and further strained the healthcare system in the Dallas and Fort Worth areas. As a nurse extern, I worked in surgical trauma, ICU, and many of our patients have been transplanted from the Gulf region. I was about to graduate in a few months, so I was very involved with the care of those patients. The hope and the resilience of human being were on display in a big way. Although these people had suffered significant losses, their attitudes were positive and their faith was strong. Several years later, in 2017, I started travelling. I didn't want to go too far away from my home, so I went to Houston in May and then renewed my contract, putting me there through November. My greatest fear of going to the Houston area during that time was getting caught in a hurricane. Enter Hurricane Harvey. I was working in the cardiac cath lab on call that weekend. I spent 5 days sleeping in a pre-op room on a stretcher in a Pasadena hospital with floodwaters that rose to the hospital entrance. We never lost power, but the entire loading dock was flooded about 15 to 20 feet in height. The sister hospital in East Houston flooded up to the second floor the next day. That facility had flooded multiple times before and has since been closed and demolished. I remember feeling like I was watching a dream, having just been in that building a few days earlier. Seeing a functioning hospital brought to destruction, I thought, this can't be real. These hurricanes would be a lot to take for anyone, but it it was just forced preparation for me. September 20th, 2014 was a day I will never forget. I remember seeing a headline on the news saying Ebola in Dallas. The next day, as I approached the hospital in the morning to start my shift in the emergency room, I could see the brightest lights I'd ever seen since Friday night at high school football game. I think it was the media from every news outlet in existence. Ebola, just like the movie Outbreak from 1995. I did not want to go inside that movie. I thought, it's here? Ebola is here? In that movie, a carrier of the virus went into a movie theatre and sneezed. The cinematography showed his spray in slow motion, permeating that whole place, and everyone ran out like they were dying. I could not get that picture out of my mind. I stood motionless as I gathered myself and was reminded why I chose this profession, which was to help others. So, physically shaking and pondering the fate, the entire 5-minute walk, I went in and did my job. That's what nurses do. Fortunately for me, the gentleman who was positive had since been moved to the ICU, so I was not exposed, but several others were, and it was like a major cataclysm event. Even 60 Minutes showed up. Many other events have been placed in my 16 years and counting as a registered nurse. I've had an active role in caring for patients through all of them. However, these experiences have not made me bitter in the least, nor burnt out. Nursing has been my career choice for 16 years, and I do not see myself separating from nursing completely. It hasn't always been a tumultuous course in my career. There have been many uplifting moments that have left an imprint on my heart and soul. Early on, as a novice nurse, a middle-aged gentleman had come in after having a massive stroke. He was with his wife at the time of the incident, and they'd been separated because of the severity of his symptoms. Unfortunately, he died with his wife not there and unable to get to the hospital. The nurses on our unit decided to put money together to call a cab so he could come to the hospital and see her husband, even though he had passed away. It was her right and privilege to spend those final moments with him. We later found out that they were newly married, but she handled it with grace as the tears ran down her face and led her to him to mourn as she saw fit. She was very grateful, and we felt blessed to be able to provide the opportunity for them to be together. All these experiences have taught me more than anything that everyone deserves the best care that I can provide to them. When a person comes into healthcare, they are vulnerable. Rarely do they want to be there, so it's up to me to make that encounter as pleasant and painless as possible. Also, I've learnt that we need them just as much as they need us. I feed off the stories and the interactions with my patients. When we're working, we are there for our patients so that they can leave better than they came. To the future nurse, if you decide that what you do right out of school is not for you, fear not. You can cross-train to many other areas. The possibilities are endless. School nurse, military nurse, occupational health, acute care, intensive care, emergency care, procedural nursing, operating room, paediatrics, geriatrics, research, infectious diseases, cardiology, and on and on and on. The diversity of nursing is ever-changing, and nursing science is still a relatively young field of study. We have many areas to continue exploring, and more are being discovered. Before I close, I want to address the men, and the black men in particular, but not to exclude any race or ethnicity. We need you. Thank you to all the women who serve alongside us daily. We love you and appreciate you immensely. Although as a patient, isn't it nice to be able to interact with another man when you're having a man issue? I can relate to this when I had a man issue that required a bit more intimate of an exam. And ladies, isn't it nice to have a man around for specific tasks that need to be completed or for dealing with certain types of patients? I'm talking to nurses with that last part. Yeah, yes. Men can be just as compassionate as women, even more so in many cases. I've been travelling for 5 years now, and I've seen that men, black men and other men of colour are grossly underrepresented in nursing, and I would like to see that change. So I have one question for you fellas. Are you brave enough to be a nurse? I know you are, so let's save some lives. Hope and faith are sometimes the only things left when a person has a traumatic experience, fall victims to some disease, or gets injured. We, as people, cannot provide a person with faith. However, we can give hope. Encouragement is mighty. When a person gets better after entering the healthcare system, that offers hope for a better future. As a nurse, you can be part of that person's improved quality of life. Many people have jobs or careers that are unfulfilling and blah. I can leave my facility knowing I have done something fulfilling that helps others, improves their lives. I have done something. This life is the only one we have. If we want to live one of purpose and fulfillment, nursing is one of the ways to do that. So join the most excellent profession in the world. And Keith's practical tip is learn to be assertive. Patient advocacy means that you may have to be uncomfortable sometimes. Don't let fear lead you to action or inaction that could risk your patient's safety and your license. Lean on the experience of others, however, make sure you make the decision that is in your patient's best interest. So originally Keith is from Tulsa, the home of Black Wall Street, Greenwood, and he's been a registered nurse practicing for 17 years. He is of Creole descent with roots in St. Londres Parish, Louisiana. He's father of 3 lovely daughters, 31 and 20-year-old twins, one son, 19, and a heavenly son as well. He's been married to his beautiful wife for 23 years. Keith supports the healthcare profession by filling staffing needs at various facilities throughout the world through travel nursing and advocates for his patients by collaborating with all disciplines to ensure the best outcome for them. In order to lead others successfully, he makes it a priority to lead himself first and studies leadership daily. He serves as president and chief executive of a non-profit organisation based in his hometown of Tulsa that focuses on equality, inclusion, and the rights of all citizens. Keith is a renal disease survivor and advocates for improved education for patients with kidney disease and enjoys healthy cooking and eating. And you can find him on Instagram at Food Theory or Facebook, Big Love. Thank you so much, Keith.